All right, here we are back again at the kitchen table of knowledge, huddling away from a supposed Midwestern cold storm of record, which we seem to have 2 to 3 times a year. Always the worst in history. And thankfully, we're warm, we're safe, we're well fed, showered, well slept as a result of tools and the technology that enables those tools and allows us to have the convenience and the comfort of modern life. Yet we find ourselves sitting at this table to discuss just that, the nature of technology and how it shapes our lives, how it affects our lives, how it changes us, and to perhaps break ourselves away from this presumed idea that the things around us are agnostic, that the hammer is only a weapon of violence when I have the intent to use it with violence, and it's a tool of building an achievement when I choose to hammer in a nail. That's always been my contention, at least since I put thought to it. But today we're here to discuss Martin Heidegger and his thoughts surrounding this subject. So Grant is going to open this up for us, kind of present and lay out the case made by Heidegger. And
kind of, we're going to lay it out
we're going to
the
see
only
if
way
we can.
possible, which is in dialogue.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's the only way you can do philosophy. It starts with Socrates that way, as a dialogue. And this is going to be just a dialogue to help us understand the question concerning technology, an essay by Martin Heidegger. And to hope anybody who's listening along, you'll also come to greater understanding. We're reading it because we're also reading Cryptosovereignty by Cason. And then you get to chapter 14 towards the end, 16. And he says, before you go further, you really need to understand Martin Heidegger on technology. And he says to read the question concerning technology. So proceeding apace, then we pick this up. Martin Heidegger within philosophy, just a seminal figure in 20th century philosophy, a real heavy hitter who renewed the way that we talked about philosophy and thought about philosophy. A reputation for being very dense, for inventing terminology, for focusing very specifically like on the etymology of words as far as influencing their meaning. And so doing some like going back to the Greek where a lot of philosophizing comes from. And he's German, he's writing in German, talking about the roots of these German words that we now use, but where do these roots come from? What does that mean for the ways that we used to live and used to employ these terms? So we're going to walk through this step by step, see what we can learn from it, see how we can apply it to Bitcoin. And then next week, we'll proceed on to see how Cason uses the question concerning technology to help explain kind of Bitcoin within his theories. So the question concerning technology, what type of philosophizing will we be doing here? So for Heidegger, how he starts this essay, questioning is about building a way. When we talked about Nick Land, he had talked about philosophy as an initiation into thought. Mm-hmm. For Heidegger, he says questioning is about building a way that leads through language. What he's going to try to do in this essay, he says, as we question technology, is open up a free relationship to technology. We're going to talk about what that even means to have a free relationship to technology, a relationship really to the essence of technology. We're going to try to find a way then to get to the essence of technology leading through language. The question concerning technology, we might say then, that question is, what is the way to understand the essence of technology? And first, so we have to talk about what is the essence of a thing. That's a very philosophical way of accounting for something. But maybe think of it this way, is how Heidegger talks about it. Like, what's the essence of a tree? If you want to know the essence of a tree, you don't talk about a specific elm tree, an oak tree, a cedar, or a pine. Any one particular tree does not hold all of the essence of a tree. The essence is some broader thing that all trees are. So if you want to know the essence of technology, we're not going to look at particular examine particular existing pieces of technology. You don't look at planes and cars and power lines and stuff. To get to the essence of it, Heidegger points out kind of counterintuitively, the essence of technology is nothing technological. He kind of starts that way, and it kind of has this sound a contradiction or paradox, which is a good place to begin with philosophy, because digging into that, we're going to get traction on something that seems confusing. So again, this is philosophy. The essence of technology is not technological. To talk about the essence of technology is the domain of philosophers. Everybody's welcome here. You don't have to be a developer, a coder, an engineer. You can be those things and also philosophize about technology, but we all have an encounter with whatever modern technology is. And so we all have something. This is going to speak to all of us if Heidegger does this correctly. And I think he does. So hopefully we can get that out. One common or definition. So beginning to look at the essence of technology, like a common way that we think about it or define it maybe is technology is a tool. As you start off in the introduction, Lucas, technology is a means to an end, to go even more general than tool. It's something that helps you achieve a purpose that you set out to achieve. It's a human activity that does that. So when we consider technology in that way, it presents as neutral, as you said, kind of agnostic relation. It's only a means to an end. You have an end, so you invent technology as the most efficient way to bring that about. If that's your model, which is kind of the default model of technology, I have something I need, I'm going to invent a tool, a technology to help me get it in a more efficient way. It seems like then the only questions we can ask ourselves are like technical ones. How can we do this better, more efficiently? How can we master our tools, wield technology better? So that's where Heidegger begins. And he says, this definition is correct. This is like, it is the common accounting we give of technology, but we're going to do philosophizing here. So Heidegger says, we're going to start with the correct and move toward the true. We're going to try to find the deeper thing that maybe shows how a correct definition of technology is not a full definition. It doesn't get at the deeper truth of what the essence of technology is. So even looking at the correct definition of technology as a tool and an instrument, we need to get deeper than that. We need to go deeper. And the first step he does in going deeper in this essay is to talk about, what is a means to an end? It's, as a logical relation, it's cause and effect. You have an effect and you have something you make to be the cause to that effect. And Heidegger goes deep into the first part of this essay. It's interesting if you want to see how philosophers talk about cause and effect. He talks about Aristotle having 4 ways of conceiving of that. And the key from that discussion, I think, is just that the cause is responsible for a thing becoming a free object in the world that then beams forth its essence. And I'll get this out, and I want to talk about this because this, I think, is for me, a psychedelic part of this essay. And by psychedelic, I just mean that it's going to hopefully change your perception of the world around you, which is populated by objects. So if we say that technology is about a means to an end, and a means to an end is a cause-effect relationship, and causing is about being responsible for bringing an object into the world, what does it mean when the object is in the world? And this is where Heidegger really does a beautiful job talking about objects, something just so basic. So an object that is brought forth in the world beams forth its essence. It's kind of focus on being as a verb here, to be, right? The activity of enduring through time. An object in the world, we tend to have this kind of passive accounting of the things around us. All the objects kind of recede from us. They're in the background. They're just there, but in a very passive sense, only there when we need them, really. But don't think of it that way. For Heidegger, an object in the world shines forth its essence. It is presenting itself as a verb, presencing, he says, the constant presencing of a thing that is present. So it's not just being present, but this book is presencing, as, it's very fully and really in the world, apart from us, doing its book thing. So again, Passively is how we usually, but practically, we usually regard it kind of passively, objects in the background where they're invisible to us. But if we begin to think about it like Heidegger, maybe things now become more visible. These objects in the world, they're shining forth, presencing. And this is kind of the first step to move toward a free relationship towards something, free from us, in a sense, free from what we impose on objects, free from our own desires, designs, purposes for the thing. So this is kind of the very basic kind of ground laying to where we're gonna go a lot further than this, but has all that made sense so far? Technology is a means to an end. Means to an end is causal relationship, and causation is bringing an object into the world. An object being in the world is a very full and independent thing, and it's about being in the world as like an activity.
Yeah. So to kind of go backwards, maybe, I guess I look here and I see the bookshelf that is actively bookshelfing.
Yeah.
It's doing its bookshelf thing, holding up books. The cup is cupping. It's holding my coffee. There's a bottle over there and it's bottling.
But even more than cupping, it's being a cup beyond our for us, it's cupping. Like we see it only as cupping, right?
Mhm.
Like, because that's what it does for us. But it does something more than that. Our perception of what it does for us, the bookshelfing, doesn't exhaust everything that that bookshelf is. It is an object aside and apart from our designs and purposes too.
How is it aside and apart from our designs and purposes if it would not exist without us?
Yeah, and this kind of does go into, so when he talks about Aristotle discussing cause and effect, there's four ways that Aristotle talks about causing things. There is both that efficient cause, that's one way we brought this into the world. So we are the maker. That's the only reason you hear a bookshelf is because of us. There's also what Aristotle called kind of final cause, the telos, the teleology of the bookshelf. That's the purpose. That also kind of explains why it's here. We needed this to hold the books, and so it's here. We built it for that purpose. But there's two other kinds of causation. There's also material and formal cause. The matter is like whatever woodish substance that you get from IKEA, right?
Cardboard,
Yeah.
the finest European cardboard.
And so that's the material cause. It's kind of caused by its matter in a sense. The matter is responsible for it being here
Mhm.
just as much as we are, right? We
Mhm.
caused it by building it, but the matter is also causing it to endure, to presence, to exist. The form is also causing it. It's tough to imagine matter and form apart from each other, but imagine maybe abstractly the form, the shape that the matter takes is also in keeping it here as an object. If it's in a different form, it's no longer a bookshelf as an object. It's a heap on the ground, or it's still in the tree or something like
Yeah.
that. So you have material, formal, efficient, and final cause. So there are ways of reckoning the causation, the responsibility for this being here that's a bit aside from human purposive endeavor, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like a boulder is the matter,
Yeah.
but the
Rock is the matter, right?
rock is the matter.
And of the boulder, yeah.
And the sculpture that I make from it
Hmm.
is the form, but that form existed prior to me using my chisel on it.
It was in
It was
there.
always in there,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I think maybe that just makes me think about humans and our ability to transform ourselves into something, to become a, a great father, to become a great guitar player, to become a great athlete. That was always within that person. And that, the person themselves is the matter, but the shaping of that person, the practice and the diligence and the deliberateness, that they practice whatever it is that makes them that final form, that was always within them.
And it's kind of easier to regard ourselves as independent objects in the world that have an independence from other people and other objects. But so imagine the bookshelf in the same way as the person having that independence of unfolding and revealing that doesn't exhaust itself in the same way another person doesn't exhaust itself. I can only learn so much in a conversation about Lucas, of who Lucas is. There's always going to be something that withdraws from my perception
Mhm,
that doesn't reveal itself.
mhm.
Um, the bookshelf is the same way. Now, I mean, it's not the same in that it doesn't have an interiority, right? We don't know. It does. We don't think it does. It doesn't think bookshelf thoughts. But Heidegger at least wants to get us, I think, as we develop a free relationship to the bookshelf, to try to begin to regard things as they are apart from us. So, and maybe to help us do this a bit more, he begins to talk about, I said he's really conscious of the etymology of words, where they come from, and also just kind of the old practices that we once had relating to those words. So he looks back to the Greek ideas of uh, poesis or poesis or poesis, poesis, we'll say. The root is like poetry, is where it comes from. That's where we get poetry. Poesis and physis, physical, right? Poesis and physis. These are both ways of bringing forth an independent object into the world that shines forth, that reveals something, that presences. They're both human practice. So poesis, they're both practices. They're both ways of revealing of a thing. Um, and you gave the idea of the sculptor revealing. I mean, that's a great example. That's a way in which an object reveals itself in the world. We're going to talk a little bit about poesis. I'll just get into that. We're considering the essence of technology. We began with the correct definition of technology as an instrument, a means to an end. In analyzing that, Heidegger finds that the cause is about bringing an object in the world that shines forth, beams its presence, which is revealing a thing. This brings us to what's important about that. So if we already have a correct definition, then what more do we need? We want to get to the truth, though, so Heidegger says, and he looks at the root of truth as well. Aletheia is the Greek word, one of the Greek words for truth, and that's Lethe, which is forgetting. The river Lethe, people might have heard of, was a river in Hades in myth, where if you drank from it, you forgot your past life, so you could be reincarnated anew or something like that. So Lethe, forgetting, and then A is like negation, a normal, not normal. So aletheia, the negation of forgetting, is what truth is.
Is the negation of forgetting remembering?
Remembering, but it's also embedded within that Greek word, is also has the meaning of forgetting, has the meaning of concealing. And so Heidegger goes with that kind of etymological strand and says it's unconcealing or revealing. The truth is about revealing, removing from concealment. So aletheia, truth, is about that. So let's look at poesis then. If poesis is the activity of bringing forth an object in the world to reveal it, allow itself to begin, this object to shine forth and reveal things about it, it's different than physis. So physis is the way that nature reveals itself. A seed that you plant grows, it blossoms, it reveals in a way apart from human action. I mean, we can be involved in that process, but it's not necessary. Physis is a blossoming from inherent natural processes. Poesis is poetry again. We could say the poetic making of the artist or craftsman who use techne, which is art or craft, the activity of the craftsman to bring that object into the world. So physis, a natural bringing about of an object into the world so it can reveal itself. Poesis, the poetic revealing, the poetic making through the artist or craftsman using techne, art or craft, their activity, to bring something into the world. And just to give an example, so that kind of makes sense, techne for the Greeks was a form of knowing. It's what the craftsman knows and how they come to know through their activity. So the carpenter, through the techne of carpentry, the full art or skill of working with wood, they come to learn things about the wood. The wood reveals itself to the carpenter in a way that whatever industrial process made this bookshelf did not reveal anything to the machines. The carpenter learns about the qualities of the wood, how it splinters, what the grain is, what are good woods to use. They learn through their techne as they engage in poesis, the act of making and bringing something into the world, a lot of things. The object reveals a lot to them. So when you have a skill, you uncover or reveal many things through the operation of your skill. The great chef knows a lot of things about ingredients that we don't know about the ingredients, even as we enjoy the final dish. Does that all make sense as far as like poesis as a form of revealing and then physis as different, I guess?
So if physis is natural, then poesis is unnatural.
Natural and unnatural you could look at it that way. just reminding ourselves, of course, that humans are natural. And
Yeah.
Heidegger's not going to really die on that hill of saying it's unnatural, I guess.
Be poesis would be natural only to humans, and
Yeah,
physis would be
that's a good way to
natural
put it.
to the world around.
Yeah.
Is there a through line for cause and effect? I know I'm going backwards just a
No, that's
little
a good
bit,
way.
but
Yeah.
is there a is the effect always to save time?
So we started off with technology as a means to an end, and
Yeah.
that's how we got to
So is
causation.
is the end always to save time?
So, and what do you mean by that?
So I I have a combine to harvest wheat
Mhm.
because it saves time
Yeah.
versus hand threshing. I have the hammer to pound in nails because it saves time versus hand shaping a peg to go in there. Um, I mean, there are other benefits, but the common, I guess, what I'm looking at is like when we think about Bitcoin and we go back to like Bitcoin is time by Durgigi, then we also pair that with, what is the only thing that we cannot make more of? And technically, we could make more Bitcoin if we
Yeah,
really
and change
wanted
the
to,
code, right?
but we can't make more time.
Mhm.
And so we only have one truly finite resource. So I guess, yeah, I'm just curious if all of technology has a common end.
Yeah. That's a great question. We're talking about the essence of technology. So, we do want to know the answer to that question. And that's kind of the direction of this essay. We're going to see what all of modern technology is oriented towards. Heidegger is going to end up t- framing it a bit different than the saving of time, but I think you could probably cash it out in those terms.
Okay.
And just to draw that line, so technology as techne is a form of aletheia. So it is a form of truth. It is a form of revealing of things in the world by bringing the bookshelf does reveal itself to us in certain ways. I mean, I said it's limited, but it does reveal itself. And so you're right to begin asking these questions. Technology for Heidegger is a mode of revealing. We're just going to see here in the question concerning technology the limitations of that revealing and kind of what it means for how we should think about technology. So we're questioning concerning the essence of technology. We've arrived at technology as a mode of revealing, as a form of poetic creation, creation using art and craft or techne. Um, but Heidegger, what he's really considering in this essay is modern technology. So that's kind of where we're going to go. Modern technology, Heidegger says, reveals in a way that's different than the craftsperson, than that carpenter we talked about, who reveals a table from wood, or the sculptor revealing the sculpture that's pregnant in the marble. Modern technology, Heidegger says, is a challenging revealing. We seek through modern technology not to reveal, not as an expression of techne, not as the carpenter working with different types of wood, learning the best way to express that wood in the final product, but only toward one ultimate end. And this is what you're getting at. For Heidegger, maybe not, he doesn't frame it as to save time, but I think you could, again, redescribe this in that way. He says, the challenging revealing of modern technology is to demand energy from the thing that we're working, the technology operates on in order to extract and then store that energy. That's what all of modern technology is oriented towards for Heidegger. I mean, and proof of work is as much about energy as time. So this is you're right to make that connection. Um, we Modern technology is a challenging revealing of objects by demanding the energy from them, extracting that, and then storing that energy, which is different than the poetic revealing of the carpenter who learns in the techne that they use when they're revealing the thing. Because again, it's about extracting, demanding, isolating. The attitude toward the substance is different. Um, so that objects are now revealed through a challenging revealing that seeks only their energy. The earth is revealed as a coal mining area. The soil is revealed as a mineral deposit. Um, the peasant maybe used to be the steward of the land who puts the seed in the soil, that cultivates it. They even rely on the physis of the seed, this sort of natural growing in their cultivation. Now We consider that an operation of nitrogen and phosphates, and then we manipulate even the physis of the seed through GMO, through genetic modification. Mechanized agriculture is about challenging the soil, demanding from the soil that it reveal itself as an energy source for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The farmers that I used to work with in Southwest Kansas refer to themselves as water miners.
Yeah, that's such a modern technological way of regarding oneself. Yeah.
And it's just you're right. It's just an equation. If I take 8 tons of biomass off, then I need to replace 8 tons of biomass.
Yeah.
And, if I take 300 pounds of nitrogen off, I need to replace 300 pounds of nitrogen. Oh, that makes perfect sense in this. Yeah.
Yeah. And calculation is a key part, the kind of reduction to doing a calculation regarding things. So modern technology uses a challenging revealing to draw forth energy and then store that energy to extract and store, and then use that stored energy in further cycles of extraction and storing.
Talk one second. So he was writing this during the 40s, right?
This is
40s.
His career spans the 30s through the 40s, maybe in the 50s, and this is after World War II. This essay.
Yeah. So he was living through a time not dissimilar to the time that we are living through, which would have been a rapid shifting of technology, going from trains to jet engines, going from horses to cars, going from newspapers to radio to television. All of this modern, and especially, the Henry Ford system of, this is the factory, here's the raw materials, and out come the widgets, and everything in it is an equation. So I guess I wanted to make sure, we're framing that because that's what he is calling modern technology, I assume.
Modern for him, right?
Yeah, modern for him.
But also modern, like the modern technology at that time, I think he would say shares something with the modern technology of today. The radio, which is something that he's reacting against, is comparable to the internet, right?
Yeah, or TikTok. Yeah, exactly. So just to think about, the time frame, the 40s and the 50s, that was the fastest evolution of technology ever. And then we really kind of went dead for about 75, 80 years. Like, we've not innovated very much at all. We've iterated, but we haven't innovated. And today we're now innovating. The car may be replaced by the autonomous quadcopter, and the jet may be replaced by the rocket, or perhaps some other level of physics. And so, I just think it's a prescient. It's a timely thing to consider because he was living through a pace of technological evolution not dissimilar to the one that we are currently living in.
Yeah.
That our parents really didn't feel. I mean, they certainly felt change, but not at the pace that we see it.
Yeah. No, it's a very timely essay. The only note, and it's helpful to, of course, see why it's timely for us, just as it was for Heidegger. He's living through times of change. We're living through times of change. But that's the key part, not the specific technologies. Again, the essence of technology doesn't depend on whether it's the radio versus the internet. It depends on what these things share to get an idea of the essence. Yeah.
Exactly.
So modern technology, a challenging, revealing, demanding to draw forth energy from the thing upon which it works to then store. But he also says that is a revealing of some sort of truth. It may be different than the poetic revealing through techne that respects physis. Like, this is also just another example I want to get because I love this one. I'm reading Wes Jackson, the founder of the Land Institute in Salina. He wrote a collection of essays, but he talks about Native Americans used to, when they were harvesting the grain, they would store it both from the small heads and the large heads. And they would do this kind of based on a mythical belief that they shouldn't discriminate amongst God's creations. But this had kind of secondary side effects of like preserving genetic diversity. And through there, then poesis of stewarding their grain production in this way, they reveal kind of a respect for the dignity of the underlying thing, the seed, thinking it's a thing of the gods. They reveal kind of a durability, which we call genetic diversity because we reduce it to kind of calculation, scientific thinking. But for them, it just revealed that the thing was able to be used over and over again. Modern technology, though, a challenging revealing to extract energy, reveals something different. What does it reveal? This is a big point for Heidegger. So this is kind of the next point. It reveals reality, objects around us as standing reserve. So modern technology orders the entire world, all objects as standing reserve, as things that are on call for our use without any other meaning or significance. When you were accounting objects at the beginning, the cupping, the bookshelf, bookshelving, that's standing reserve. These things are there for us. We create all of these things because they have utility for our purposes. Modern technology revealing a standing reserve in which objects cease as things in themselves with an active presencing, with a shining forth of their own being, and are now again raw commodities that we can recycle, not recycle, but store and use, set aside for further use, be on call. Everything about them otherwise is concealed. The wood, if the trees, and maybe for the lumberjacks of yore, they saw the whole forest. They saw it as something to be maintained. They harvested trees that were good for the purpose of being converted into furniture or fuel or something like that. Now, wood becomes a raw commodity. It's the cellulose you can extract to make paper and to enter that paper into a circle of production to produce energy. So now we look at all of the world around us as something to be extracted from, as standing reserve.
And in doing so, we kill the essence.
And then, yes, and he's going to say not only do we kill the essence of the thing fully because we don't allow it to presence itself, we damage our own essence, our human essence. Is kind of where he's going to go. This another a word on top of this. Heidegger is kind of constructing a vocabulary to help us see the world anew, because it's so easy when you talk about modern technology to slip into the common ways of regarding it, which again, all of the objects fall comfortably in place by receding away from our perception as only things we use them for. But to get objects to presence, to shine forth again, we need kind of a new frame, a new way of looking at them. So the particular mindset, the call to action that we feel to order the world as standing reserve through modern technology, Heidegger calls that enframement, which is that it's a human mindset of seeing the world through the lens of modern technology, which we're all kind of default in, I think. Enframement, to see the world as standing reserve, as resources for our extraction. Enframement comes from the German word Gestell, which actually means bookshelf. So a good metaphor again. The bookshelf, enframing the world, is about placing things on shelf for further use, extracting their resources and energy, and then we place it there so that when we need it, we come back, the standing reserve is on call, and we can use it for our purposes again. So Heidegger says the challenging revealing in which the world is seen as something to be extracted for standing reserve, that whole mindset is called enframement. So you can now have a word to try to get outside of. And once you name a thing, we now at least have a bit of a handle on. We have some traction on our modern mindset. We can call it enframement. Enframement, here's where we've arrived, manifests the essence of modern technology. We understand technology, again, not by looking at individual pieces of modern technology, the radio, the car, but by considering the mindset we have in relation to it. That's something that's shared between the radio and the internet, is the mindset that it imbues or causes us to have in relation to us, the call to action it gives us to continue ordering things for our use. Do you think that makes sense? Like enframement as a mindset that provokes us and calls us to action, to order?
Is enframement a subset of perspective? And can you get outside of enframement to have a perspective that is not enframing?
Yes. According to Heidegger, that's where he's going to go with his essay. It's going to be, we're going to ask that question: how do we get outside of enframing? Perspective is a good way to looking at it. I was trying to kind of pull that from Heidegger too. Like, what is enframing? I use the word mindset. He actually calls it like a calling forth. It calls us to do something.
Which would be like a purpose.
It's a purpose, maybe you could say. But a purpose that is provoking us to do things in a certain way, look at the world in a certain way. It's like a purpose that pushes
So
us.
that's what I'm wondering. Does there exist a perspective that is not an enframement?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to give so that's
And
why you talk.
does that mean that, so if I escape my enframement and instead I view the cup, so I guess this is where
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting to humanize all the things around me, where I don't frame the cup as serving a purpose. I have a relationship with the cup, and I view myself in harmony with the cup. And I don't look at the deer as a source of food.
Right.
I look at the deer as, um, well, I guess perhaps this is just you look at everything as a oneness, maybe.
You begin to recall maybe religious perceptions of
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
Religion would be another mindset, another
Was-
alternative way. But to give a practical example, or to give one example we've already talked about, Enframing is that challenging revealing of modern technology that provokes us to want to see things as the resources we can extract from them. But he's already talked about poesis. That's another form of revealing. Again, the carpenter reveals things from the wood without a challenging revealing. He doesn't challenge the wood to give up its essence by becoming only a resource to be used. The carpenter has to work with the wood. They have to understand the qualities of the different woods,
The
the grains,
limitations.
the
Yeah,
limitations, the
conditions.
constraints.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. So
Was Heidegger religious? Do we know?
I would assume, I mean, this is probably an obvious answer to this question. I would assume he was. I just don't know enough about him. He famously kind of had a great a strong relationship with nature. He would go out into the Black Forest. He had a small cabin there, and he would go out and live close to the land. And that's where he would do his thinking and his writing. Um, and I don't know his explicit religious beliefs, but I would very much assume so. And yeah, so we began questioning concerning technology. Heidegger says the essence of technology is nothing technological, rather it's this call to action, this mindset of enframing. That's the thing that unites all these different things to reveal the world of standing reserves of raw materials. You gave a great example. We were talking about this before we started filming. What did Elon say about the end state of technology?
That, we're coming to a world where you'll never have to do anything more than think about something, and may not even need to think about it in order to have it.
Yes.
And that basically anything that you could want would appear possibly before you even want it.
Mhm.
And my concern with that is that, having read the Dopamine Nation book by Anna Lembke, and our viewing our state of mind and our ability to interact with the world in a positive way as this seesaw between pain and pleasure, and pain being the craving, pain being the wanting,
Mhm.
and pleasure being the seeking, pleasure being the doing.
Yeah.
Then it seems to me that, should we achieve that Elon-esque end state of whatever I want appears before I even want it, then I feel as though that seesaw of pain and pleasure would be permanently dumped to the pain side.
Yeah. So, and I just love that example because that's like, I see that as the total end state, total enframing mindset, total capture by enframing. If technology, on the common correct definition, is an instrument to get us the thing that we want, a means to an end, this is just like Elon taking that 100% and saying, you just think the cause and the effect appears. And then at that point, enframing is absolute. And it's the horror, the dystopia. If I didn't even capture this, and we talked about before, if the effect appears before the cause, if you're saying we get the thing before we want it, if the algorithm can detect that we have an incipient want forming in us by habits and all the data it has, then enframing maybe becomes absolute and captures us perfectly because we don't even see that we're willing it. That ability to see it, Heidegger is going to say, at least places us outside of it. So that's a horror story that maybe, goes beyond even Heidegger, if we can,
Yeah.
if wants
Which
to be
is what
satisfied before we have them.
this is what we used to feel as such an unnatural thing of, oh, you and I talked about baseball, and then I opened up Netflix and there was a baseball movie in the queue, and I opened up Amazon and there were baseball cards that were suggested to me, et cetera,
Yeah.
where we realized that there was something that was taking what we were just ruminating on even and placing it before us
Yeah.
and feeling, at least at the beginning, feeling very violated by that.
That sense of violation is a good feeling, because that is what gets you out of enframing. We'll get there. Let's handle one objection people might have. This is what Heidegger handles, and we talked about this too. One objection might be, no, modern technology is not a form of reveal, a challenging reveal to extract resources. Instead, modern technology is itself revealed by pure science. I mean, this is the, you might say, the Bill Nye, yay science point of view, where, we have scientific theories, and then those scientific theories challenge us to reveal things. So we invent technology to better see the world or something like that. So Heidegger just says, yeah, so scientific theories are part of the challenging fourth process. They are revealing the world that we're asking it to reveal. Basically, we come up with new scientific theories to better explain the world in terms of its underlying units, like atoms and molecules, to break it down, right? We don't see the deer, we see the molecules and the physics of it, which then allow us to more easier extract the meat or what we want from it. So science, modern science, actually is a part of this challenging fourth process to help us order the world as standing reserve. It happens first as scientific theory. That scientific theory is then used to help us break down the world into isolatable elements, which we can demand, challenge, manipulate, and exploit as standing reserve. It's, I mean, so I guess does that seem like how science operates to you? Because he even says, like, if you want to know, and this is maybe obvious, but if you want to know what the world's going to look like, look in the future, look at the scientific theories of today and see how they're breaking down the world, because that's the world we're going to build from them.
We have both of those things. I just saw a rubric earlier today of science for science sake, engineering for engineering's sake, engineering for the sake of science, and science for the sake of engineering. And the point of that rubric was to say that science for the sake of engineering pushes us forward and moves us to create a solar panel that can work in space, because we need to power a satellite in space.
Yeah.
That serves the purpose of having, internet across the world or whatever. Engineering for the sake of science causes us to build a Large Hadron Collider, a particle reactor,
Right.
because
Yeah.
we're like, I don't know what would happen. Like, that's the question. And it's like, we're not trying to build a bridge. There's no purpose of finding out what happens other than to find out what happens. And then be like, well, when we get there, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I would
think
say
Heidegger I think he would place
they
that.
both occur.
I would, yeah, and I can see that point, but I think Heidegger would place even science for science's sake as why.
Science for science's sake is just like, it's all theoretical. There's nothing, we're never taking the theory and putting it into the world. We're just mind masturbating.
So I think Heidegger would disagree and say that's a scientific theory we're placing on call for future use to order the world. Scientific theory, science is inherently about order. It's about how we order things in a very empirical way. And I'll just back up. I want to make one point. Heidegger's not trying to demonize modern technology. So he's not a total Luddite. He's not Ted Kaczynski. I mean, he wants us at the end to be able to get outside of enframing, but he lived with modern technologies that he used, and he doesn't, again, want us to demonize technology. That's like the two poles that he's trying to exist between. One is total just capture by enframement, and the other is like Ted Kaczynski, Luddite, demonization of technology. And he's not going there. So he's somewhere in the middle there. And we'll get right to the question I was forestalling earlier that you brought up. is the enframing inevitable? Can we escape enframement? Are we condemned to look at the world as something to be ordered, to extract resources from it, place it on call as standing reserved? Are we trapped by the essence of modern technology? So this brings us back to the beginning of the essay. Heidegger says we're questioning concerning technology in order to establish a free relationship to it. That free relationship is that escape from capture by enframement, that ability to get out of a mindset and freely regard the things around us in their objecthood as apart from things to be extracted. But then, I mean, that's the question. Is free relationship even possible to the world? And that kind of brings up the question of free will, which is a perennial philosophical issue. Heidegger sidesteps it or maybe just doesn't think that that's a relevant question. He wants us to rethink being free in a different way. And I love this part. So he's not going to talk about free will, but kind of free within space. So freedom in the sense of being free from obstruction. The clearing in the woods is free of trees. That type of freedom is what he's going to talk about here, free. And in talking about this, Heidegger kind of begins to talk in almost a mystical pitch in the essay. And this will give us, I'm going to read a little portion here. I'll give you a taste of his prose, while also, again, in my estimation, this is kind of the most mystical that he sounds. He says, freedom is that which conceals in a way that opens to light, in whose clearing there shimmers that veil that covers what comes to presence of all truth and lets the veil appear as what veils. So that's a lot. There's a lot to unpack on that. And I want to walk through that by helping us visualize it, because this is how I really think one of the best ways to really truly understand philosophy is to do it visually. Yes, you want to?
Well, I was just going to, can I take a shot in the dark?
Go shot in the dark, shoot.
Is freedom then looking at social media as the thing which veils community by offering connection?
Yeah.
It hides it hides community.
Yes.
We lose community. But to look at it from that perspective and to say, this thing promising, this thing that offers what is a necessary condition for community, which is connection,
Right.
is also not only not sufficient for community, it is in direct opposition to community.
Which is
that it's hiding community behind the veil of connection.
You enter the clearing in the woods, and there sits that network which reveals to you the possibility of connection, but there's a veil over its heart, which is the lack of actual community. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a perfect example. And so again, to help visualize this, so close your eyes, Lucas, and anybody who's watching, close your eyes, even if you're driving. It's that important. So it's hard to process the language when you hear from Heidegger. We're going to walk through this as in literal kind of visualization. So, Lucas, you're walking through a dark forest, and there's only the path forward. That's the way you are on. You're on the way through this dark forest. On both sides of the way that you're on, it's concealed in darkness and foliage. Not only concealed, but it's so tangled and dark that you can't extricate even a particular plant or tree from it. It's just like a foliage obscuring the presence of foliage, that dark. So you're on this way forward in this forest. Then suddenly you burst into a forest clearing that's free of trees. Sunlight streams down into an open space, maybe the size of a basketball court. You enter into this freedom, this free space. There in the middle of this free space, in the middle of the woods, stands a shimmering, veiled figure, a human figure shimmering, shining forth, but veiled, a person, so you can't see their face. So that's the process, kind of an imagination, visualization of that passage that I read of a free space in which a thing reveals itself, shimmering forth in its own essence, but which is also still veiled in some essential way. So you can open your eyes if you choose to. So what is the point of that? And you've actually, we already jumped the gun on that, because I think the internet one's a good thing. That's social media is in that clearing, and yet it still has a veil on it. It's withholding part of its essence. the key, the clearing is open. It's a space of revealing. That is always free. The space of revealing is a free space, but there's also always a call, that mindset. You called it a perspective, maybe. The enframing, when you enter that free space of revealing, and framing is one way that that happens. You enter the clearing, you regard the veiled figure as a resource, perhaps someone you can ask for directions to get out of the forest, as someone you need to protect yourself against, right? Who are they? You regard them in their relation to you from an enframing mindset in an instrumental means end sort of way. That's a form of call to reveal of the object as you enter the clearing, that free space. Poesis or poetic revealing is another way. Perhaps this figure will be then a source of inspiration or discovery for your particular techne or skill. If you are a musician, it may become your muse. So when you enter that free space of revealing, the mindset, perspective, the call that you have is going to kind of dictate what you see in that shimmering image, what you allow that image to show you, and the most importantly, some ways, some calls, some mindset, to quote Heidegger, lets the veil appear as what veils. That's a really important part because we want to get out of enframement. We want to be able to see the limitations of it. You want to see the veil. The veil is always going to be there in some way, even for the person with a particular techne. They're only going to see it from their perspective or mindset. It's not going to reveal or exhaust itself fully. Every human will appear to you veiled because there's always something in them. Every object is also always veiled with some aspect of its essence because there's always something about it we don't fully exhaust in our interaction with it. We can spend a lifetime like regarding a coffee cup and never fully discern its full essence without like becoming the cup or something like that. The thing always withdraws something of itself. And the key in that is just to recognize the withdrawal, to recognize the veil, to see the limitations, your own blinders in a sense. Does that make sense?
What I'm thinking about is that I should yearn to, I should learn, I should look upon the veil not as the thing occluding me from seeing what is behind it, but I should look upon the veil only as a veil. That what is important is not what is behind, but what is important is that there is a veil. But I'm not sure
Yeah.
where I'm going with that.
No, you're revealing concealment in a sense. Like truth is aletheia, to remove from concealment, but you can't always fully, or you can't ever remove something fully from concealment. You can't ever fully know something. But the point is to reveal to yourself the aspect of concealment, which enframement doesn't allow us to do.
I would take it quick.
Yeah.
Do you remember when texting came about? Like, do you remember like
The decisive moment? I don't know if I remember that, but I don't know if I have some key
I mean,
pivotal.
I just remember being in college and it was like having the old Nokia brick phone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Verizon, it was Alltel at the time before they got bought by Verizon. And I think they gave everybody like 3 months or a month of free texting or something like that. And then after that, it was a dime a text or something like that. It was, like
Yeah.
to consider today, it's insane. But I remember thinking when it first came out, like, this is absurd. Like, all I'm doing is emailing someone and I'm being charged to email them. And why would I ever want to email someone who I can call? And it turns out I was completely wrong about that thing.
Yeah.
But it is, how many people did you talk to today? Today is a question that is answered by how many people did I text, as opposed to how many people did I talk to?
Yeah.
Like, talk.
We can see the etymology of the word changing with talk. It once meant orally verbalizing something, and now it does mean sending an electronic transmission. I talked to them today. I sent them a text.
Yeah. But I don't know why that popped up, but just to think about,
Yeah. And you don't see that at the moment. I guess I didn't have a perception of it as something that was going to capture and change the way I thought about how I was talking to other people. I remember thinking of the cell phone, maybe not texting, but you'd be out in the tractor in the age before cell phones, and you were at the mercy of somebody coming to get you, or if something broke down, of like walking to go get help or something like that. But when you had the telephone, the cell phone, the game changed. It was like, this is so nice, you
But
know?
it changed in a way that I think makes people more reckless. I think that I am, so I have a cell phone in my vehicle. If I get into an accident, I can call for help. But having the cell phone in my vehicle, we know, improves my chances of having an accident
Yeah,
like 100-fold.
yeah,
Um, so the thing that it purports to save you from may well be permission to do the thing from which you need saved.
yeah. No, I'm also reading right now, Feminism Against Progress by Mary Harrington, and she calls that progress through theology, the belief that we think that all things are good exactly because we don't reckon all of the consequences that we don't see them bring about. Oh, the cell phone is good because of all these reasons, but then the increased accidents is kind of just like, we don't really
Yeah.
focus on that.
Yeah.
So,
Like it's like, you know, you think that you're making your teenager safer by giving them a cell phone when they go drive because
yeah,
they can call you for help. Yet what you're doing is you're putting beneath them a fail stop that says, oh, you can take more risk. You can not consider yourself to be responsible because now I'm here, a tap away
yeah,
to be that savior for you.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I think about that. Like I think about when I was in high school one time, I blew a tire. I had to change a tire. I didn't have a jack, and I ended up figuring it out. Like
yeah,
I walked like a mile and found a fence post, and then
yes,
I found like a brick or something.
yeah,
I can't remember. I don't even remember how I did it, but I changed a tire in the middle of nowhere without, the ability to jack up the vehicle. And what would I have done otherwise? Well, I would have called somebody
and
and I just sat there.
you would
And
not have learned those things along the way. That's like the techne of the craftsman. They're learning things constantly. The carpenter's
yeah,
constantly learning things as they get things done. But when things are got done for you by technology, you don't learn all the things on the way. You
and
only learn,
I wouldn't have revealed that self-sufficiency as
yes,
well.
that too.
I would have, yeah, which was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have remained concealed.
Yeah.
That's the enframing. So, and that's where Heidegger goes right now. What are the dangers of enframing? That's one of them right there, what it reveals from us about ourselves, maybe. And there's also the danger, so I'll kind of rail off some of these, the danger that man will stop seeing objects and see only standing reserve, um, and be concerned only with ordering that standing reserve for further use. And the danger then is that we come to see ourselves as standing reserve, right? Heidegger uses the phrase human resources, which is now a very common phrase, verbiage. Maybe it was new at the time. We come to see ourselves as standing reserve, as resources to be used by others, others to be used as resources by us, as us. He also notes when all is revealed as cause and effect through technology, which regards things in that way, everything, even God, can lose its mystery. God becomes the first cause. We just look, I mean, that's even some theologians begin to talk about God as like the first mover. And that's kind of a very banal and non mysterious way to regard a God. You don't look at God in the full mystery of what God is. You only look at it like, oh, the world is cause and effect. Technology shows me this. God is the first cause. And you talk about God in this very
Hmm.
logical and kind of sterile way. The final turn, then we kind of mentioned this earlier, man comes to encounter only him or herself, um, just, en- just encounter them as like man or resource, but not in their essence. Perhaps come to fail to see enframing as a frame, as a claim, as a specific call, speaking to us and asking us to view the world in a certain way, and so lose the ability to listen to other calls that might provoke us to see the world in different ways, other frames. The threat of technology is not the real threat of technology, Heidegger says, is not like that robot apocalypse where like Terminators come after us and shoot us. It's not death by robot dogs. not death of the body, but the death of our essence.
Yeah.
The inability to reveal the world to ourselves by stepping outside of a frame in which we can fully see the world, see God in the world, see the world as independent of us.
Yeah. The way that I have experienced this is as I've gotten, I won't even say that as I've gotten older, I would say that as I have become more dependent upon technology,
Yeah.
I have become less and less able to view myself as the star of the movie. That I, you're 16 years old, or you're 14, or you're 8, or you're 20, or whatever, however old you may be. And one thing happens that is a win, and it propels you forward. I styled my hair in a different way, and it made me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
That was a win. Or um, I threw trash over my shoulder and got it into the trash can on a bounce off the wall. That was a perfect shot. And it's like these things that lift you up and they push you. The essence is that you're living in a movie, that you are the main character. And I feel that technology, as it relates to the ever-present social media, ever-present screens,
Yeah.
that it has now become the main player. It has now become the star.
Yeah.
And we feel more like this is the NPC. This
Yeah.
is the non-player character, right?
We see ourselves maybe as only economic units. We go work, get a paycheck, spend that paycheck to consume. Like that's the name of the story. That's the only story there is. There's no movie where you do something interesting. There's no mystery to you or me. Humans are not possessors of infinite worth. There's nothing infinite about a human. They're this much flesh and blood. They're that much economic production capability. There's no mystery there. And so that's kind of the enframing mindset towards another person. You look at a person and think, what can they do for me?
Yeah. I think we had this conversation about like the dating apps are it's a standing reserve, right? It's
Great example of that.
It's nothing more than, just you go back to the well.
Yeah.
Drop in the line and
it's a menu.
Yeah.
Everybody's a menu item. They're describing themselves in the terms that they think they need to describe themselves because that's the way you frame yourself within a dating app to be legible to other
It's
people.
what makes you tasty on the menu.
Yeah. You put yourself out there as standing reserve on call for other people.
Yeah.
So those are the dangers of enframement. Again, he's not demonizing technology. The benefits of technology, modern technology, are manifest. This essay is not about them. Those are the dangers. Within that danger, there's also a saving power, Heidegger thinks. Enframing is a danger because it threatens, again, to sweep us away from believing, or sweep us into believing that all unconcealment is simply as revealing things to be ordered as standing reserve. So we lose all the mystery, all the other ways of seeing. Within that danger, we can also be saved. If we begin to pay heed to how technology is revealing things to us, we then can have the capacity to be conscious of our own enframing. And so to consciously regard things differently. We can do this, be conscious of enframing by not being enthralled by particular technologies, but to remain cognizant of the essence of technology that is being revealed to us. Stop seeing technology only as an instrument, only neutrally, agnostically as a tool to get something done, but begin to regard, maybe with suspicion, any new technology, not just like when this is, when an indigenous tribe receives a bottle of Coca-Cola, they have no inkling of the world that's being unleashed on them, right? And we're the same way. We're all indigenous peoples. When a new technology is given to us, we need to look at that as like potentially black magic that could have some, reap some dire effect upon us.
This is Jonathan Haidt linking the downfall of the experience of life of modern females to the advent of the front-facing camera. Right?
Yeah.
Where
these technologies are so banal, so normal, it's so normal seeming. Like, how could this have this effect on us that's like ontological in scope, affect our essence?
Yeah. Or you look at it, this is great. It's like having a It's having a live mirror.
Yeah. How could that go wrong?
How could that ever go wrong? And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden that live mirror becomes a scoreboard
Yeah.
on social media where you are offering yourself up to be judged,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then basing your self-worth upon that.
Yeah. And you mentioned this earlier. There's a sense of violation with a lot of these technologies.
Mhm.
And this, again, is actually a good thing. Like, enframing endangers our relation to truth because it conceals the fact of concealment of truth of what we could know about ourselves in the world. It brings us into this frenzied ordering, but that endangering, if we have that feeling, then we can like begin to look at technology. It's not something wrong with us. It's not like I feel shitty and bad. It's not an internal characteristic or some defect. It's an aspect of the way the world has changed, that our humanity, our evolved cultural practices and biology was not ready for. Um, so yeah, that violation can help us understand the frame we're in, and to regard like we need to get out of it and understand that the truth is out there to be revealed in different ways than simply ordering as reserves.
Yeah. To this day, there has never been a time in my life when I have felt more violated than when iTunes put the new U2 album on everyone's iPhone.
Yeah, that was a
And
thing.
you had no choice in
Yeah.
that. And the comparison, it's like, it would be like someone breaking into your house
Yeah.
to leave a gift,
Uh-huh.
and they expect you to appreciate the gift and not consider that they broke into your house.
That's a
And,
good
and then,
yeah.
then to also reveal that, oh, they didn't break into the house. They have their own key.
And so many update code, like Microsoft pushed updates are that way.
Mhm.
All the things that you liked about the prior version are gone.
Gone.
And just like, I didn't sign up. I probably did sign up. Probably clicked a box somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's like the interesting way in which, I mean, Bitcoin is technology, but technologies are forms of revealing. They reveal truth. It reveals the way that the fiat machinery is working. It reveals a violation that we didn't know how to describe before. And so looking at Bitcoin as a form of technology, that reveals something. It reveals a latent sense of violation that we can now find and peg to a source.
But it also reveals something about ourselves too. You're not a toxic Bitcoin maxi. You're just an asshole who figured out money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good description.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we read James Polis's Human Forever. I mean, obviously, like right in line with this about preserving our humanity, how Bitcoin is one way we can help do that. In that book, he talks about there being kind of a first generation after COVID that lacks memory.
Mhm.
And I thought about this when reading this, that the kind of the value of people who've matured a bit and have wisdom and have seen technology over time, you kind of have some insight into the essence of technology. And so, like, we people who were before the internet, before the cell phone, have important stories to tell about people who grow up with that enframement, just being they already they're born seeing the world through the lens of the internet and the cell phone.
Mhm.
There's no other world. And you can help people get out of enframement, and we can maybe ourselves get out of enframement by talking to our elders too, right? Like, that storehouse of human wisdom is a very important resource. It's kind of, I think, overlooked in the digital age.
Yeah. I stopped and saw my grandmother on the way back. And she told a story just about there was a snowstorm coming in, and she talked about, when she was growing up, is they never ever canceled school. There's just no such thing as canceling school when there was a
Yeah.
blizzard. And by the way, like back then they would have huge blizzards, like
Yeah.
not, we got 3 inches in Kansas City and it shut the whole town down for a weekend. They would get 36 inches and they would walk to school, and the teacher would walk to school and then stay at the house of the family that lived closest
Nice.
so that they could have school again the next
Yeah.
day. And the reason I thought about that is because like 2 days after that, I congratulated myself on walking to the gym 2.5 miles in bitter cold.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is an achievement. It's like, that's not an achievement. Like, that was just a Tuesday,
Yeah.
for that. And You've framed this, the public use of a cell phone. Should you be able to frame that in your mind as masturbating in public?
Yeah.
Like I left my phone when I worked out today, and I was up on a stair climber, and I was just looking around, and I was like, everybody is masturbating,
Yeah.
everyone around me. And I knew that it wasn't like that when I started working out,
Yeah.
10 years ago or 12 years ago.
I'm glad you bring that example up. I think there are little so enframement, one of the ways we get captured by it, I think, is we begin to regard all these practices as normal and natural because everybody's doing them. And so if we can adopt mental habits where we look at things anew, it's kind of what Heidegger does by giving us new terminology and enframement. I mean, we now have a new tool cognitively to begin to extricate ourselves from capture. Another one of those is, like you said, if you mentally, like, say, every time I see someone in public on a cell phone, I'm going to consider that as having the same social sanction of shame as if they were masturbating in public.
Mhm.
And it's not, I don't think this is a crude thing because I do look at it as like a closed loop of desire somebody is indulging in. There's a incurvatus in se is a Latin phrase. I think kind of St. Augustine, I think originated it. The idea is people kind of curved inward on themselves in a self-centered state, focusing on their own desires rather than God and others. And the cell phone, I mean, it kind of does that. When people are on that in public, we should see that as antisocial. And
They're
so,
curved in physically too.
exactly, and like a loop. Just imagine them as a loop, right? Just they're a circuit that's separated from everybody else, focusing on their fulfillment of their own desires in a sort of masturbatory way. And like, so what are some? I was thinking about this. What are some other mental hacks we can do to like get out of enframement? Another one I've been doing myself is regarding all short form content as inherently propaganda. So just say anything that is a short video, a tweet, lacks context, right? And that's inherently propagandistic. If you have only the video of something happening in the moment without all of the events around it, you only have what somebody is showing you. So anytime you see a video, don't share it. Try to figure out, if you're going to explore it, like what the deep context is. So then this maybe inoculates us against scrolling through feeds. Oh, retweet or repost, whatever you do on Instagram, and TikTok, whatever you do there. Maybe we don't share stuff. We say propaganda, propaganda, propaganda. So again, just a mental hack. And another one, regard all memes, all the mimetic phrases you see, the repeated phrases people use in Twitter or wherever, as hypnotism. These are like ways to get us all to think the same way, like sodium pentothal or whatever. They're ways to like prevent you from thinking a different way about a thing because there's a track laid in your mind where you say the meme and then you seed your mind to others or chemicalize it into blankness, right?
Yeah.
Through this, as I was walking today, I pictured myself like pulling out weeds. Like that's what those things are. They're weeds in your mind. And every time you're in public or talking to somebody else and you're about to say a meme like based or something like that, instead of saying based, say, what's a synonym for what I'm trying to say? And then rephrase it in your own words and see what comes out. See if you have an original thought by removing the hypnotism of the meme from your mental structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picking up the cell phone too. Like just the act of picking up the cell phone without having anything
Checking it a million times a day.
is just like having the old school rotary phone and just going to pick it up. Well, just going, it's not ringing. It's like, it's
Anybody there?
yeah, it's
Anybody
the idea.
now?
It's the idea of
Huh?
picking up the phone. It hasn't rung,
Yeah.
and you're just picking it up and you're listening for nothing.
Yeah.
And then you're just setting it back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see if you can create your own mental hacks to like prevent yourself from subconsciously falling into like inframing behaviors.
I like the meme. I like the mimetic one, because we commonly view those memes as uniting.
Yeah,
Because
and they are. That's exactly what they are.
Yeah,
They unite us as a tribe.
they're uniting in a way that obliterates independent thought,
Absolutely.
and it creates mass migration towards one ideology.
Even
And this is this is why, we can throw everything back to it, but this is why the average guy became a Nazi in Germany, is because the power of that pulled everyone together.
Yeah.
Not because they can't,
Some sort of
99.9% of those people would not have come to that on
yeah,
their own.
some sort of meme. And another one, even within the Bitcoin community, if you're thinking of retweeting something and just attaching Bitcoin fixes this, that's a meme. Instead of saying Bitcoin fixes this, think to yourself, how does Bitcoin fix this? What's the process by which Bitcoin gets rid of this harmful social practice or like technological abomination that I'm tweeting about?
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of just doing the meme, think for yourself. And like that's, I do like I'm in guilty as everybody else, right? You do it, we all do it. It's easy, it's socially gratifying because we're participating in community, like you say. But it's also, if you get outside of it, words appear in your mind that are your own or that are God's
Mm-hmm.
and not the hypnotism of the community. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's one saving power. Maybe those little cognitive hacks can get us out of enframement. A big one is another one for Heidegger is art. So we talked about poesis, and throughout this essay, in doing his philosophical heavy lifting, Heidegger quotes and builds from the words of poets. He's using poetry to do some heavy lifting here. And he quotes Holderlin saying, poetically dwells man upon this earth as kind of how we should live in art as a way to get out of enframement, live poetically in a sense of poesis, in engaging in activities with techne in the sense of revealing something about the thing and not just revealing the thing as commodity, as raw materials, as standing reserve. Um, in the more ancient sense, art as techne was about bringing out like the presence of the gods, a dialogue with the divine and human destinies. It was about yielding a truth. Art was about truth, aletheia, about revealing, not about aesthetic pleasure, not about even not a cultural activity. We think of there's a thing now we call the artist. That's a ridiculous thing. We're all artists. We're all in the art of being right now. Like we're engaging in that art, whether you think you are or not. We all need to, as Holderlin says, dwell poetically on this earth by living outside of enframing and finding our own, like drawing our own revelations from the objects around us, letting them rather not draw them, don't challenge them forth, but let the objects shine forth and see if you find the presence of the gods, right? In the shimmer of the light on the top of the water or something.
I have nothing to add to that. I was drawing a picture.
So this is
I was
actually
doing art. You were inspiring my art.
So the saving power of art, this is the last thing I have here too for the notes. The saving power of art becomes more apparent as we go deeper into enframement. Oh, we talked about this, kind of the unease that we feel reveals to us the mystery maybe we once felt in the kind of presence of really good art. If nothing else, you have your childhood when we all lived poetically, when the world was mysterious. There were gods everywhere. You didn't know how things worked. You regarded everything with astonishment. You were constantly interrogating what, why, you know? So
yeah, the child.
Yeah.
I ask why 9 times in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my notes. That's a romp through the question concerning technology. Let's maybe even before we kind of close on the essay, but like, what's the relevance to Bitcoin? Like, I don't know where's Cason and maybe not where Cason is going to go with this, but what does this provoke in you regarding Bitcoin?
What Ardian
Ardian Tola, an Albanian philosopher, technologist, developer on Bitcoin, incredible mind thinking in the Bitcoin space.
The incredible one-liner that he dropped to us that I think both of us have kind of been pondering for a while now. It's Bitcoin is the enemy.
And putting it to guests, throwing it at them too.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, just like Facebook is the enemy, or X is the enemy, or 24-hour news coverage is the enemy.
Yeah.
There is something about Bitcoin that is the enemy, which is that with Facebook, we focus on connection and we lack community. With Bitcoin, we focus on wealth and we lack,
I
don't know, growth. We lack community, whatever. We lack everything else, like you become hyper-focused upon one thing that if the world adopts this, that all the problems are solved. Yet, you're trying to press pause on your own problems, on the problems of the people around you that, yes, they would be solved if they would just adopt Bitcoin, but actually they wouldn't,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's not gonna.
And if you're thinking, I have stored my Bitcoin so I can help my family when I'm rich, I'm going to sally
Right.
forth and help them now. Like what people need is more. It is not. You think you can make all the problems go away if you have enough money, and maybe that's certainly true for many problems. But what many people need is like presence.
Yeah. Just think you've got someone in front of you drowning,
Yeah.
and you're standing on the shore and you're saying, "Hey, I've got a life preserver over here. And as soon as it's filled with air,
Uh
you'll be able to get it and
huh.
I'll
That's
pull you
right.
out." And they're like, "Well, you can swim. Like, help me
Yeah.
out, bro."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is a means of exchange, not just a store of value. You use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bitcoin is modern technology, though. Heidegger says modern technology challenges forth um, a it's a call that we view all things as what we can extract from them in the form of resources. Does Bitcoin cause us to view the world as standing reserve? We can extract energy from it to get up the hash rate. We can mine Bitcoin for ourselves and hold it as a standing reserve for later use. I mean, is it within like that's the enframing mindset,
Yeah.
I guess, is it
I mean,
captures within that?
how many people now look at the entire world as they're Bitcoiners, and they look at the entire world as a means to get more Bitcoin?
Yeah.
They
Right.
look at it as a standing reserve
Yeah.
of Bitcoin.
And that's, I think, why what brought me into Bitcoin, Alex Gladstein, it's kind of outside of the enframing mindset because Bitcoin is not just a tool to extract energy or, wealth or whatever. It's a way that people can live within oppressive regimes, gain a sort of equality with people who live within monetary systems that aren't entirely wrecked. And so there are ways to regard Bitcoin outside of that enframing mindset, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I come to the clearing in the path, and there stands the shimmering, glowing figure that is being, and the veil, and that shimmering, glowing figure is Bitcoin. What is the veil veiling?
Yeah, that's a good question. And maybe it's even, we can never know that. We can at least know
That's exactly what we talked about, right? It's
yeah,
not what it's veiling, it's that there is a
that there
veil,
is a veil. We
and
can
we
at least
appreciate the
know
veil.
there is something not transparent about Bitcoin. If you think you understand it perfectly and all of its implications, maybe behind the veil, Bitcoin is the enemy. Maybe behind the veil is something else about Bitcoin that's good that we don't know. Maybe behind the veil is just simply, you know, who knows? It's not revealed to us. So we haven't exhausted our exploration of Bitcoin. We never will. That's a humbling thing. The person who you think is an expert and wants to push an update to the system because they say, it's Bitcoin has revealed everything to me. We can know about it. I know how it operates, I know how its incentive system functions and everything about it. Let's just upgrade and so we can trade GIFs on chain or whatever. Maybe there's a veil there they haven't seen. So
Could be.
yeah. So anything else on Heidegger? That's Heidegger, the question concerning technology. That's going to get us to where we could talk about crypto sovereignty by Eric Cason in the future. But anything else on Martin Heidegger, the question concerning technology?
Yeah, keep your cell phone in your pocket the way you would keep your
Don't keep it
other.
in your pocket because
Well,
that's going to.
Sorry. Keep it hidden from public the way you would your other masturbatory devices.
There we go.
There you go.
And if that's your fetish still, man, keep that to yourself. So.
And it is too. Like I was sitting in the sauna and I looked over the shoulder of a guy who had his phone out and he was watching porn.
Was he
Yeah. Scrolling through.
I mean, and it's just so normalized for some people. He probably didn't even realize it. For him, it's just like.
And commenting out loud on it.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to make a social at least.
Yeah.
In Curvatus,
Inviting
say,
everybody
it's
else in.
like out Curvatus with you.
What a grand world.
Yeah.
I'm happy for it.
That's a wrap, man.